Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFK journey video. So we are on the Pioneer server, so keep in mind the content is subject to change by the time it is coming around on global. But we're going to be talking about Velara, her complete abilities, and where she has been useful so far. And in fact, she is seeing some usage for boss content, Titan Reaver, some Dream Realm. However, as of right now, it is not decided whether she is better than any other option in a team. But she's definitely going to be an interesting hero to watch out for, and surprisingly, Dream Realm is really probably going to be her major meta game mode, if anything. Okay, now it is all about her stat stealing ability. In boss content, Velara can actually steal up to 50% of her own starting stats, attack, defense, health, those for all of your allies in these boss fights. And so basically she is gonna be a buffer, massive buffer. When you think about 50% attack and defenses, like, it gives you survival and it also gives you massive damage. No other hero basically right now has a 50% attack buff for your entire team. However, the problem with it is this is only going to activate after she has charged up all 4 of her magic circles on the match, and that takes a long time. You're going to see in the replays, it's going to take like 35 seconds or so into the battle before she fully charges all 4 circles. And so basically, even though the buff value is massive, you're only going to have it for maybe 50 seconds in a battle. So that is the thing to keep in mind. But okay, we're going to go through her skills, and then we're going to show you the replays in Titan Reaver and also Dream Realm. So she's going to begin with 400 pre-fill energy. That is going to allow her to get off her first active a little bit faster. And also, when a battle starts, Velara will summon 4 dormant magic circles on the battlefield. Each circle will awaken after accumulating 1000 energy. When a circle awakens, it will affect all units within 2 tiles, restoring health to all allies. And if there are enemies within range of 2 tiles, it will reduce their haste by 30. So, bit of a debuff and a bit of a healing, but nothing too massive. The active Velara channels her energy into one of her dormant circles to until it awakens. Basically, she's going to keep channeling until that circle is awakened, and that is how she's going to have to go about and get all 4 of the different circles awakened for the most part. If all circles are already awakened, she instead expands their area of effect to cover the entire battlefield and transfers the 30% of basic stats from all enemies, then evenly distributing them among all allied units, lasting for 10 seconds. So for all enemies, whether this is AFK stages, PvP, if they're 5 different enemies, she's going to actually steal 30% of their basic stats and transport and distribute it evenly amongst all of your allies, and this is going to last for 10 seconds. The transferred stats that each ally receives cannot exceed 50% of Velara's starting stats, so that is the limit, and in boss fights, allies will always receive the maximum amount of transferred stats. So that is the interesting part, right? So 50% of her attack, defense, health, all of these are going to be given to all of your team, all of your allies, I'm assuming even herself. And that is big, but if you're going to try to go for a strategy oriented like this, you're going to want to actually max out Velara's stats, because that is going to be the increasing the cap. The only way to provide a greater buff to your team is by having Velara herself having higher stats, which means that if you want to get this effect and actually make it work in Dream Realm, you're going to need to max Ascender for the Ascension stats and probably even exclusive equipment, ideally plus 20, but like plus 10 for earlier level. But basically is all about Velara's stats. And when you upgrade this, is going to be a bigger haste debuff. 50 haste debuff is not bad. That's actually pretty good. But in boss content, that is not really going to change anything. It doesn't actually work on bosses to reduce their skill casting frequency. And but for PvP, it does work. However, PvP, we'll talk about it, but her issues are she charges too slow. Like we said, it's going to take a 35 to 40 seconds into a battle, even in Dream Realm when she's not interrupted at all, and she has like energy boosting from twins and everything. It still takes her 35 to 40 seconds to fully charge up her energy or all of her circles and get this effect off. So that is basically the reason why it is not going to be very useful for PvP, because it's just too slow. Now, Sinbound Shackles, this is a PvP oriented. It is an immobilization onto the enemy who has dealt the highest damage, the hardest hitter of the enemy team, and also reduce the haste by, again, a pretty massive amount, 70 haste, and also reducing the defenses physical and magical defense by 70%, which is actually going to be useful for a Dream Realm because this is going to be a defense shredding ability. However, in Dream Realm, there are a lot of factors which go into damage, and a lot of it comes from true damage, which this is not going to benefit. And for HP per second damage, this is not going to benefit. This is only going to benefit raw, like for example, OD, Bonnie damage. Okay, moving on. Merciful Harvest. So if Velara is placed within a magic circle when a battle starts, that circle is immediately awakened. So this helps her, but even with this ability, it still takes her 35 to 40 seconds to fully charge up all of her circles and get that stat stealing effect. Otherwise, the circle farthest from her position is awakened instead. This is just kind of like an interesting mechanic that if you want to try to immediately be debuffing the enemies, you would position Velara in a way that she does not immediately activate any circle she's standing on, so the furthest away one is going to be activated. But if you want to be healing your own allies, then you would want her standing on a magic circle on your side along with your allies there as well. Anyway, passive every 3 seconds, each magic circle gains energy based on the stat reduction debuffs. Now, this is the problem. This charge rate is so slow. Every 3 seconds, first of all, each magic circle will gain energy based on the stat reduction debuffs on enemies within 2 tiles. But for each unique ally who inflicted any of those debuffs, the circle will gain, okay, but 32 energy. So even if there are like multiple enemies all inflicted with debuffs, 32 times, let's say even 5, all 5 enemies, that's 150 energy every 3 seconds. That is really slow because it needs 1000 energy to fully activate. So like that is major the thing. Like maybe if this was every 1 second, it would actually charge up rapidly enough for PvP, but every 3 seconds, it's just really slow. You're going to see it in a boss battle, just how like slow it actually is. But yeah, increases the energy gain from each debuff. Yeah, it just is not fast enough, but it's mainly to activate her magic circle disability at the beginning of the battle because that gives her a head start. Okay, hero focus will give her haste. When all her magic circles are awakened, her haste is increased by an extra 5. Which is not even that much. Like, it takes a long time to activate all of them, and then only a 5 extra haste, no other buff for your team. So pretty like overall lackluster hero focus. And then you have Graceful Edict. This is going to be her Mythic Plus exclusive equipment when a magic circle, and this is also a very lackluster, underwhelming Mythic Plus ability. It's just going to be basically giving a bit of bonus shielding and a bit of bonus damage to enemies. When a magic circle awakens, it fires a Mystic Bolt to the weakest unit within 2 tiles. If the unit is an ally, they're going to gain a 500% attack shield. If it is an enemy, they take 300% damage. And that is it. That is her Mythic Plus ability. Each awakened magic circle increases the shield value applied or damage dealt by the skill by 10%, and this is only on the first awakening of the magic circle. When you have a plus 10 exclusive equipment upgrade, then every 10 seconds each magic circle is going to fire at the weakest units, either shielding if it's an ally, or if the weakest unit is an enemy, then just dealing damage. But if you're talking like boss content, usually actually, you know, in boss content, it depends. If it's an endless boss, probably your allies are always going to be weakest because the endless boss basically has infinite health. I don't know exactly how that would work. But for, yeah, so and anyway, the damage here is nothing amazing. It's basically that a bit of shielding for your ally or a bit of damage onto the enemies, but already charging up all of our circles takes such a long time that, and this just doesn't help. Like, I mean, if her Mythic Plus somehow rapidly allowed her to supercharge up her magic circles, that would be so much more game-changing, way better for Dream Realm to get your buffs up faster, and then also way better for PvP. But the problem is, it's just too slow, and her Mythic Plus does nothing to help with her charging slow speed. That is the issue. And then you have her Enhanced Force Supreme Plus. After all magic circles are awakened, casting Ruthless Rite is going to be the ultimate. Expands the area effect to cover the entire battlefield until the battle ends. So basically, after you cast her active ultimate, after all 4 circles are awakened, that is when you're getting the buff stealing. And now, if you have her Supreme Plus, it is going to be active until the end of the battle. So even if Velara dies, it will not matter. You're going to have those bonus buffs, I'm assuming. And each subsequent cast will make allied units unaffected and increase their damage dealt by 5% for 5 seconds. Now, for Dream Realm unaffected, I mean, it can sometimes make a difference if you have Crystal Beetle. We had Orson, like, you know, with knock-up type effects. Even Sigmund, I think, has some knock-up effect or something, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, but basically, unaffected, it doesn't offer that much for Dream Realm content. Increases the damage up by 5% for 5 seconds. 5%. What 5% damage boost is so minor, and also damage boost will only apply to true damage and regular physical magical damage. It will not apply to HP per second damage. Okay, but overall, definitely the most interesting part about her kit, and the only reason we're even talking so long about Velara and why she is not just like an instant skip hero, is because of this stat steal, which is basically like a 50% of her own stat buff for all of your team after all magic circles awaken. That is the thing which basically saves her. Otherwise, everything else, honestly speaking, it is not good. Okay, so look at this. In Titan Reaver, the top scoring team is using Velara. And even better than, for example, look down below. There's a Hugin team. Velara basically rather than Hugin. Because Velara is going to give more stats to your allies. And like, you see the score difference, 745 to 811. So looking at the replay, let's take a look. Okay, so we have the one magic circle immediately activated by Velara, as you can see. And then the next one is going to be activated pretty quickly because Velara is able to charge up her energy fast enough to then activate that one. But look at the clock, 73 seconds left. We're gonna, and look at the other magic circles until Velara fully charges up her own energy to actually active cast and charge them up herself. The debuffs on the boss are not doing enough to charge up those magic circles. So it just comes down to basically Velara casting ultimate 4 times, and then you need to cast the ultimate on the 5th time, which will be right now, yeah, and then she is going to activate the entire field, and now you have the actual stat stealing effect. And now each subsequent ultimate that she casts, it will just provide unaffected to your allies, and also will give them 5% damage boost. But now all of her buffs are in play, 50% bonus attack on your entire team. And now the interesting thing is, because this is such a massive, basically, attack buff, but there's no haste buff on it. Like other attack buffers, for example, Mikola, the twins, Smokey, they all give attack, but also haste buff together. Velara doesn't give haste. However, if you're running the twins, who already give a massive amount of haste buff to your team, like here, then like haste has diminishing returns, having like a huge amount of haste on your team. So Velara just giving that raw high attack, that might just be better than, for example, a combination of haste and attack from like a Mikola or a Smokey. So that is basically going to be the role of Velara. She is going to be an attack buffer basically, and maybe for some Dream Realm content for pre-endless bosses when there's survival issues, she's also going to help your survival, because that stat steal is not only attack, even though that's boosting the damage, it is also going to increase the defenses, the health of Velara, basically 50% of that onto all of your team, and then they're much less likely to die later on in the fight. So that is basically how Velara is working, and it is working decently well. Let's go ahead and now show you a replay in the Dream Realm yesterday in Crystal Beetle. Okay, so look at this. This is going to be in the, I believe this is in the hard, or basically clearing hard difficulty of Crystal Beetle. So you can watch it in action. It might actually be overkill here because, yeah, because like, it's kind of over level compared to this boss, but you'll see it. So the magic circles are going to charge, and also going to charge more rapidly in Crystal Beetle specifically, because you have the boosted energy recovery in Crystal Beetle. That will allow Velara to cycle her ultimates faster. So this is basically the fastest you can ever imagine activating all of her magic circles in a boss content would be Crystal Beetle. And that would give her an edge for Crystal Beetle specifically. So look at this, 60 seconds left. Now, I believe all magic circles are active, and now she is going to provide it on the whole field, and now you're going to get that stat stealing effect, and now each subsequent ultimate cast that she has will give you the damage boost by 5%, which is not much, and then unaffected onto your team. So, yeah, looking at this is definitely interesting, but the role she is playing in the team is a buffer. She's not a damage dealer, and she is not a debuffer. Like, you're not using her for a haste debuff, because as far as we know, haste debuff is not affecting the boss at all. It doesn't affect their skill casting or timing or anything like that. So it's just about the stats that she provides for your team from the stat stealing effect, and also the defense reduction. Like, she does reduce the defenses of the boss, not only in her stat stealing, but also in that skill that we talked about that like is up to 70% defense shred. But like when you're doing true damage mainly from Shmira, then it doesn't really matter that much for her damage. But looking at this here, this is going to be enough to get the hard clear. However, that being said, people are getting the hard clear, for example, today on the global server with level 600 as well without Velara. So do you need Velara here? No, you don't need Velara here yet. So it's kind of undecided, is she actually needed or not? This just gives you an idea about Velara. She is going to be basically the high stat buffer of any hero, but the question is that going to be better than the other supports we have for Dream Realm, such as Smokey, who also deals a lot of damage on his own in Endless Dream Realm, and also heals? Will it be better than Mikola, who gives a 40 haste buff, combat fury, and then also the attack buff? It will definitely not be better than the twins. Will it be better than Hugin? Probably, but the thing is, Hugin has really good charm quality bonus this season. Yeah, you can see over here, the charms of Velara are going to be the energy recovery for herself, which is good for what she is doing, but it doesn't help boost the damage of your team. But like, for example, you have seen here that if you're running already a Rainier team, and Rainier can give the charms to the Chimera, like here, then Hugin is not as good for the team as Velara, because Velara is going to increase attack buff by way more than Hugin can. But Hugin shields right from the beginning of the match. Velara takes some time to ramp up, but then she has massive protection for your team. So this is just the interesting thing about Velara. She is going to most definitely see some niche Dream Realm usage. For other game modes, PvP, she's too slow. You guys saw how long it took for her to charge up. In PvP, yeah, there are more enemies, but the charge rate of those debuffed enemies is so bad, so slow, that it is not going to be enough, like, for her to activate it in time. She's just going to be killed. So she's not, in PvP, I do not see any way that she's working. AFK stages, I don't know. There's a lot of good heroes for AFK stages. I don't know if you have the luxury of waiting for so long until she fully ramps up. But definitely, I think she could be used in AFK stages and in Dream Realm as the 50% basically of her own attack buff for your whole team. That is value. That is really valuable. 50% is no joke. Like, Mikola and Smokey each provide 20% each. With their skill power, it increases. Oh, by the way, is there any increase from skill power here? No. So this is the other, or ultimate power. There's no, the problem with Velara, another major issue, is that she's not going to benefit from her charms practically at all. It's not going to increase the amount of buffing that she will provide, because it's still going to be capped at 50% of her attack. So it's just all about giving Velara as much stats as possible and getting her Supreme Plus. And that is going to be the investment needed for her. But we'll have to wait and see exactly how meta she's going to be. I think there's going to be niche usage of her, but not necessarily like widespread. Like, but definitely she's going to have usage in Dream Realm. There's no question about it. Like, that 50% is a lot. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought about Velara in the comment section down below. Is there anything I missed? Feel free to let me know. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please smash that subscribe button. Also, feel free to join my AFK Journey Discord server. There's a link to that in the description of this video. And finally, if you're thinking about making a purchase in AFK Journey, please use my affiliate link for the official Farlight store. There's a link to that in the description of this video and a pinned comment. That is the best way you can support me at no extra cost to you. So thanks for watching. I'll hopefully see you in the next video, and until then, everyone, peace out for now.